Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Benergy Builder Booster Training. My name is Angela Schultz, and I'll be your trainer today. Before we get started, I would like to encourage you to participate in today's session. At the end of each section, we'll have a short Q&A, and then, of course, at the end of training, you'll have another opportunity to ask additional questions. Please use the chat feature of WebEx to both ask and answer your questions. It is typically located at the top of your screen horizontally. Just select the chat icon and I'll make sure all those questions are answered before we conclude training this morning. So having said that, let's go ahead and get started. The objectives, or upon completion of this course, you will be able to communicate news posting items to all employees. We'll talk about both the broker version and the site manager version. We'll be able to edit the portal to boost the impact and improve the employee usage. So this is the booster training. So the prerequisite to this training, of course, is either the Benergy Builder Basics or the old traditional Benergy Builder training. So today we're going to focus on a couple of things under the organization. We're going to talk about how you add employees to the Communication Control Center, how to design and customize that portal with unique logos and images and fonts. We're going to walk you through how you can add special alerts. The portal setup, we're basically going to go over everything except for the benefit portion. So we're going to go over the human resources, health and wellness, I'm here to my info, and upgrades. And then the human resources, we're going to walk you through how you add all those items. The basic class just went over the link, so we're going to cover everything else, the news, policies, communications, resources, contacts, and forms. And then we're going to kind of just briefly talk about the enrollment campaign. Now, there is a separate training on the enrollment campaign, so depending on whether your company still offers the paper version or the online version, there's different ways to create that, but we will touch on that. So having said that, we're going to go ahead and leave the PowerPoint, and we're going to go into Benergy. So I'm logged in as a broker, as you can see, and the first piece I'm going to cover today is the news posting. So I'm going to go into the Control Center, and I'm going to go over this piece right here. So it's the third option down, and I'm going to go over and explain the differences between broadcast news and company news. So broadcast news is available only to brokers. So if you're a site manager on the call, just sit tight for me just a little bit, and I will go over the company news one as well. But this does impact you because brokers can communicate very quickly to all employees for all their clients. And that's really the difference between broadcast news and company news. Company news, on the other hand, can also communicate a message or a document or website to all employees of a specific organization. And site managers can do this too. So we're going to walk through both of these, and we're going to start with broadcast news. So brokers, to communicate a message or share a document or direct an employee for all your clients to a particular website, all you have to do is select this very long link labeled click here to broadcast news to all clients or edit broadcast news items. And when you click on that, it basically brings you to either a table if you have items already created, or it walks you through how you can add a brand new item. So all you simply have to do is select the here in this first sentence. It will display a window where you have the opportunity to configure whatever it is that you want to share. Notice that there's two fields right at the top that you need to configure. One is the effective date. Notice it defaults to today's date, but you most certainly can future date that if you'd like to. The second piece is title, and we're just going to add test and then today's date just to make it easy. Now the second piece that you need to configure is you need to determine or configure what it is that you really want to share with these employees. And you have three options. You most certainly can upload a document by selecting the Browse key, finding whatever document that you want to share, and select Open. Keeping in mind there are some file requirements. Notice in this sentence here, kind of in the middle, there is a link labeled File. If you select that link, it just goes over all of the file types and their extensions that we currently support. The second option is that you can freeform text. So I'm going to do that now. And you can also paste information in here. And of course, there are some editing capabilities. And the last and final choice is adding a URL if you want to direct those employees to a website. So those are your three options. Once you configure all this, all you need to do is simply select Save, that bright red-orange button in the lower left-hand corner, and of course, saves your news item. Now notice that the title becomes a link. So it includes the effective date. So you'll want to take a look at that. You most certainly can select that link and it will share or display what you've configured. If you need to edit or delete that item, you most certainly can do that as well. But now that we've configured this, let's go ahead and show you on the portal from the employee's view what that looks like. So I'm going to log in quickly as an employee. And notice there's two areas. One is down here at the bottom, this news section right here on the home page. In the middle, there's the item. And the employee would just simply select it. And if it was free-form text, like I did during training, they would most certainly be able to read it. If it was a document that you upload, of course, that document would then open. Or if it was a URL you provided, when they clicked on that link, it would, of course, direct the employee to that website. So depending on what you configured, it determines what the control center or what the portal, how it would respond when the employee clicks on it. But I want to show you another place on the portal that they can access that news item. They can go to the Human Resources, and the first link here is News. They select that, and they see all the news items, and then they can most certainly click on the one that was just recently added. So just kind of to recap, this is available for brokers to communicate to all employees of all their clients. All right, let's pull the site managers back into training because the company news piece is also available to brokers, but also you as a site manager can add news items. It will also quickly communicate a news item to all your employees, but this time of a specific organization. So this is one of three places within Benergy you can add these news items. If you're ready to do that at this point, all you need to do, of course, is select the organization you want to communicate that message to. Select the link off to the right labeled Add and/or Edit Company News. And again, it brings up the table with editing capability and the ability to add a new one. Now, I'm going to actually walk you through this functionality a little bit later in the training, but I wanted to show you that this is the first of the three areas that you can configure this information. Are there any questions about news postings? I'm going to open up chat. For anybody that came in late, the way you communicate to me, ask questions, answer questions, is to use the chat capability within WebEx. And I don't see any questions, so I'm going to answer, or excuse me, I'm going to ask a question that I already have. And my question is, what is the difference between broadcast news and company news? So basically, what is the differences between these two functionalities? Does anybody remember? Exactly, correct. The broadcast news option here communicates in a message to all clients. So all employees of all clients. Very good. And then this one down here, company news, is company specific. Perfect. All right. Now I'm going to go into the Communications Control Center. And this time I'm going to select my training company. And I'm going to go right into editing the portal. And as we talked about during the basic or the traditional Benergy Builder class, there's a horizontal menu bar. And we covered several pieces in the basic class, and now we're going to finish up with some of the additional functionality to really enhance that portal for those employees so they'll, be more enticing and increase usage of the portal. So the first piece that we're going to cover is under organization. And we covered these first three, and now we're going to focus on the last three, starting with employee personalization. So I'm just, again, kind of go in a linear approach. So basically what employee personalization does is it adds employees to the control center. And what that will do for the employee is it assigns them their own unique login. And that would even take an additional step further to customizing that portal and making it unique for that particular employee. There's several things that they can do for their own, like creating a personal health record. If you have our eBix Benergy online enrollment solution, they can do some self-service pieces. They can enroll in their benefits and that kind of thing. So it's a great capabilities if you add employees, and you can add them in one of two ways with one exception. So there I go again, already talking about exceptions. The first one is just manually adding employees. The second one is to upload an employee personalization file. So if you have more than like a handful, like maybe 10, 12, more than that, you'll of course want to add those employees to that upload capability. That's really a separate training, but I'm going to give you enough information to get you started, and of course I'll answer any questions. And the exception I mentioned is, of course, if you have already contracted and upgraded to our Benergy Online Enrollment Solution, all those employees in that control center automatically feeds over here to the Benergy Control Center. So that's where you would maintain all of your employees, is on the enrollment side. That's where you would add your new hires, terminate former employees, and that kind of thing. So let's walk through both of the ways that you can add employees into the control center, starting with how you manually add them. So let's assign them a unique user ID. So I'll do that now. This again has to be unique. Password can be anything. And this is, again, where you assign a user group to a specific employee. And if you recall, I've grouped my employees in my training company by employee type. So this new employee is going to be a full-time employee. Your options could be very different. Then I'm going to, of course, configure the last name and first name, middle name, and I'm going to add the email. Even though it's not required, we do recommend it, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And social. Now, social, notice it's not required. There's no asterisk indicating that this is required, but there's an exception here as well. Depending on what you have contracted for, you might have a carrier fee, for example, going to a payroll company or maybe another carrier, and they're still requiring a social. In that case, then the social will be required. So I'm going to go ahead and add one. And then I'm going to select Save off to the right. And notice I get a little message saying my employee record was added. And to review all of my active employees, I would just select this link labeled View All Active Employees, and it takes me to a table. And this table includes all active employees, regardless of how you added them. Whether you added them manually through the upload, or if you have our Benergy Online Enrollment Solution. And notice that it sorts all employees alphabetically in ascending order by last name. But you can change that. So any of these headers that are in this blue font with an underline, you can resort. So for example, if I want to sort them by first name, ascending order, I can do that. User group, I can do that, and so forth. So any of these headers in that blue font. But by default, it's last name in ascending order. So there's our new employee, Amy Adams. It's the one I just added. And notice that there are two fields that are encrypted. Both the password and socials are encrypted for security purposes. So for example, password, I made Amy's password to be benefits. But notice it has a bunch of upper and lowercase alpha as well as numeric characters. And that's just the unique way Benergy encrypts the password. However, if you move over to the socials, notice that they're encrypted very differently. They're just basically Xing out the first 5 digits of their social, but actually displaying the last 4. So they're different, but both encrypted. Notice here off to the right, 2 additional fields that pertaining to dates. I do want to share with you, date added is not necessarily synonymous with date of hire. It all depends on when this employee was added to the control center. If you happen to add an employee on their date of hire, of course their date added would be date of hire, but it could be different. So it's just basically the date that employee was added into the control center. Date modified, pretty straightforward, the last time someone edited their record. So speaking of editing, notice that there is 2 links to the right of every employee. One is edit, one is delete, and we'll talk about both. The first one, edit, if I select this link, I want you to notice that there are several fields that can be edited, but also several that cannot. So let's talk about the ones that are editable first. You most certainly can edit an employee's last name. So you can, update whatever you need to do on their name. You also can change their user group. So maybe you forgot and this new employee is really an executive. And you most certainly can update their email. Once you make all your changes, all you have to do to the right here is select update, and it saves those changes. But I'm going to select edit again and point out to you that there are 3 fields that are not editable. They are both the encrypted fields, so both the password and social are not editable, as well as their unique user ID. So if there was a mistake made here, you would simply need to delete the employee and re-add them. And that's also how you would remove a terminated employee unless, of course, you have our upgrade enrollment system. So that's how you keep this information accurate. And if you need to scroll through multiple pages, notice that there is some navigation capability in the lower left-hand page, and it just scrolls through all of the employees. Now, I also want to point out to you a couple of icons in the upper right-hand corner. You can export all of your active employees in two different file formats. The first one is Adobe, the second one is Excel. And I'll just show you how this works. It's like a traditional file, so you can most certainly open or save, and it just looks like a traditional PDF, and it just lists all of your active employees there. All right, so I'm going to go back to the previous screen, and that's how you manually add employees. Now, to add employees to the file capability, you would do that here. But before we get started there, I noticed in this first paragraph there is a link labeled standard comma delimited .csv. And the reason that link reads that way, and you most certainly can select it, is because the only file format that we currently support in Benergy is a CSV. And we'll talk more about that here in a minute. But notice in that link in that first paragraph, it basically walks you step by step of how you upload that document. So it's pretty straightforward, but before we get started on that, notice in the middle here that there is another kind of like what I call a header row. And notice again there are some headers that are in that blue font with the underline. And what that does for you is it just identifies what that particular column or cell is looking for. So for example, user group IDs. One of the two most common errors we see our clients make is having an incorrect or invalid user group ID. So what did we do to help ease that process or to avoid that error is right here on the screen we have listed all of your unique user IDs for this specific organization. So these are not fake or dummy or examples. These are real user group IDs for this particular organization. So you can make sure that you have the right IDs when you key in that information in the spreadsheet, and all of these work that way. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at that spreadsheet. Notice that there are three links here. The first one is labeled Download a Pre-Formatted Microsoft Excel File. I'm going to open it, and I'm going to just complete this with all the information that it's looking for. Starting with Action, and notice that this header row in each one of those cells has a little teeny red triangle in the upper right-hand corner. Again, if you hover over that, it will identify what that particular column is looking for. So for example, Action is looking for either an A if you're adding a brand new employee, a U if you're updating or changing some information on an existing employee, or D if you're deleting a former employee or a terminated employee. So what you're basically doing here is creating a horizontal row for each of your employees. So once that is configured, all you need to do is select Save, and I would recommend that you save the Excel version just in case something happens. But then you will need to quickly convert that Excel file to CSV, because remember that is the only file format that we currently support. And it's very easily done. Just select Save As, and you most certainly can change the name of the file name if you'd like. But what you need to do, or you must do, is change the type. So you would just come down here and look at all your different choices, and you would identify the CSV, comma, delimited, which is right here. So it'd be the CSV, in parentheses, comma, delimited, and then you would save it. And that's how easy it is to convert an Excel file to a CSV file. Once you've done that, you're ready to upload. Notice that the second link reads, Upload an Employee Personalization File. You would simply select on that link, select Browse, and find your CSV file. Select Open, select Save, and instantaneously it takes all the employees from that file and places them in the control center, and you can see them by selecting the same link. But before you do that, I would recommend that you select this last link labeled View a Summary of Last Process File, because what it does for you, it gives you a bunch of record counts. So it gives you the counts for what was uploaded, added, deleted, and updated. And if the file or anything was duplicated or rejected, it gives you those counts and the reason here at the bottom. So for purposes of illustration, to just emphasize how critical it is to convert that Excel file to CSV, I try to upload using the Excel file. Of course, the Control Center completely rejected that entire file and gave me the reason that it must be comma delimited. All right, last but not least is disable the password capability. Now, in my training company, I am not going to disable the password, and basically what that means is that employees have the freedom and the capability to change their password. However, a tip I will share here is if you don't have different, first of all, two tips. One, if you don't have employees in the control center, then I would disable this capability, because you do not want someone in a user group logging in it and changing that for everyone. So that would be the only reason why I could think of where you would want to disable that password capability. And that's it. That's how you get employees into the control center. Are there any questions? Again, I'll open up chat to see if there's any questions. I don't see any, so I'm going to ask a couple of my own. The first one is, what are two ways that employees can be added into Benergy? So not necessarily the exception, but the two different ways, and this is not a trick question. The answer is right there on your screen. Anyone want to be brave and let me know how the two different ways are to get those employees in the control center? All right, the exception, of course, is if you've upgraded to our eBix Benergy enrollment solution. But the other one is that to get employees into the system, you can manually add them in the control center, or you can upload them using that employee personalization file. Neither option are difficult. It's just if you have a lot of employees, I would most certainly recommend that you use the employee personalization file. And if you don't have a lot, then you, of course, can manually add them. All right, I've got a question. Can I disable employee password change? Change the employee's password and then undisable the employee password change. The answer to that is yes, you most certainly can do that. So basically, I've got a question that it sounds like right now that they don't have it disabled, so they're giving their employees the freedom to change their own, but they most certainly can disable that capability, change an employee's password, and then deselect this again. So yes, you do have the freedom to do that. All right, well, I don't have any additional questions. I'm going to keep moving, and the next piece I'm going to do under the organization is the design it yourself. Now, design it yourself is kind of the fun area of configuration. It kind of uses the creative side of your brain because you get to update and customize the portal to make it really unique for a specific organization, such as adding the branding, like company logos, custom images, changing color fonts, and that kind of thing. And you most certainly can do that in 4 steps. And the first one I do recommend is you just look at what it currently is out there. Because even if a broker adds a brand new portal for the very first time, there are some default colors and images. So just select this link here in number 1, viewing the current design, and you can take a quick little peek of what's out there. So you can look at your colors, look at your images, and kind of identify all the different changes that you want to make. Then the second step most certainly will be to make the changes. Notice you can most certainly select the Change the Designs link here at number 2, or the button at the bottom labeled Change/Approve Designs. And before I do that, notice that the last 2 steps, and we'll talk more about this in a minute, is to preview your changes before your employees see it. So just to make sure that nothing is distorted, everything looks like you expect. And then, of course, once you're ready for the employees to see the changes, then approve it, which is the final step. And I'll go over that again here in a minute. But let's go ahead and make some changes and talk about how you can do that. Okay, first step out of 4, the home page, this right here is just a sample home page. Mine looks differently, yours would look differently. But what this does is it clearly labels by using this numeric and color code system to identify all the different areas within the home page that can be updated. So you can see that the primary brand, which is just a fancy word of saying company logo, is very clearly in the upper left-hand corner. Hover over the secondary brand and you can clearly identify it's in the upper right-hand corner, and so forth. Once you're ready to make your changes, just select the link here and it takes you to the exact same spot that you need to make those changes. So let's start with our branding. First one is primary brand. Traditionally, it's the company logo. All you need to do to add one is select Browse, find your image, select Open, and then you need to upload. Now when you upload this, what it will do is 2 things. The first thing it's going to do is just resize the image to meet our requirements, which is noted here. And the second thing it will do is it will actually upload that image right here within the control center. So speaking of our size requirements, though, let's talk more about that. If you notice that the sizes are in pixels, and in this particular brand, it's the width of 650 is so much greater than the height of 60. So for best results, when the control center is automatically updating or customizing and changing the size automatically for you, for best results, select a horizontal image. Now, the point of the control center automatically resizing your image is to make it more efficient and be a convenience. But if you're struggling with this and you're getting frustrated, please don't spend a lot of time on this. Our support team are experts on resizing these images, so if you're struggling with that, most certainly reach out to them and they will take care of that for you. Our secondary branding is, there's usually a default image. Mine is Ebix Health. Yours could be defaulted something else. You most certainly can upload a different one by selecting the browse and going through those same steps. But another thing I want to point out to you that the only images and logos that we currently support are the JPEG and GIF. So just make sure that it's one of those file types. Once one is added and you want to remove it, you most certainly can reset it or remove this altogether. And where these two images display to the employee is right here on all screens of the portal. So this is the primary, the company logo, and this is the secondary. Now sometimes clients will ask me, well, what's the purpose of secondary? Well, a company might have more than one logo, or they might have different business units that they want to share multiple logos. But we also have clients whose brokers' logos are in the upper right. We also have clients that when they're going through a merger or acquisition, they just want to get the employees a little bit more familiar with that additional company or that company that's coming in, and so they'll put their logo here. So these logos, these brandings display within the portal, and they also display right here in the upper left and right-hand corners of the login screen. So those are the brands. Now let's talk about how you can customize colors, and there's several colors that you can update. There are icons, there's menu options, there's font colors. So let's talk about the first two, starting with the icons. You can update colors in the control center in one of two ways. You most certainly can use our color palette by selecting the triangle here and identifying colors. And notice when I hover over all these different shades of colors, the color and the hex code will display here at the bottom. Now, speaking of hex code, that kind of takes me to the second way that you can customize a color, and that is just by identifying what the hex code is here by either keying it in or pasting. Now, I know you guys don't have probably a lot of hex codes memorized in your brain, but there's a bunch of different ways that you can get hex codes. Sometimes you can get it right off of a corporate website. So if you're going for that same look and feel of their corporate website, you most certainly can do that by right-clicking, and sometimes you can obtain that information. But there's also a lot of tools on the internet. There's one particular site that I use all the time that has every shade that was ever created, and it has all of the hex codes for every one of those colors, so you can get that exact same custom color that you're looking for. And that's really what I did for my training company, is I wanted to pull this little mauve color out of my logo. I couldn't find it in the color palette, so I went up to that website, copied that hex code right off their website, and pasted it right here. So these are the icon colors. And you most certainly can do that for the menu color as well. You can either use the color palette or add your hex code. And where these display, I'll go ahead and log back in. Where these display is right here. So let me close these out. We'll talk about these alerts here in a minute. The icons display here in the middle vertically, but they also are displayed here at the top horizontally. So this mauve color is what I customize. So it kind of mirrors or has that same look and feel of my logo. But the menu is that really thin line here in the upper top menu. So I use that green color there, again, pulling it from my logo. So that's these two. Now let's talk about the fonts. And there's three different sizes. There is what we call the primary header, which is the largest font, the secondary header, which is the medium, and then the hyperlink color, which is all the links within the portal, and also the very smallest font. And mine happened to be green for the first two, and then this gray color. And where this, and again, color palette or the hex code is how you change those colors. And where it shows up on the portal is right here, the I'm here too. That's the primary, that's the largest. The secondary, the medium, is the, like, welcome and so forth, like these headers, secondary headers. And then, of course, the smallest font is listed like here, and then, of course, all the links, which is that shade of gray. All right, moving down to images, we have several images that can be customized. The main one is the home page image. That is found not only on the home page, but also the login screen. And notice that the image has a default. So when you first create a portal, or when a broker creates a portal, then the default home page image will be this tree. However, some people don't like our tree, and for whatever reason, and that's certainly okay. You most certainly have 2 additional options you can choose from, or you can customize an image, and that's what I chose to do for my training company. So the name of my training company is Organize It. It's in the organization industry. So to customize an image, all you have to do is select the radio button below, so you do that for any of these choices here. But for the custom one, you select this radio button to the left of upload, and you select browse, and you find your JPEG or GIF image, you select open, and then you select upload. And again, what it will do is 2 things. It will resize that image to meet our requirements, and it would display and upload that image right here in that custom box. And this home page image is displayed, of course, here within the portal and also on the login screen. So pretty high visibility. All right, our last images on this home page are our centers. And there are up to 4 centers. Now, your portal may not have all 4, but they can have up to 4. And the first one is benefits. Second is human resources. The third is health and wellness. And the last is my information. And notice that all of these images have a default image, 2 additional options, and the capability of uploading a custom image. And these centers display on the home page. So again, I'm going to log in so we can take a look at that. So they're right here. So here's benefits, human resources, health and wellness, and my information. So notice the images change. But also notice if I select one of those images, they will also display quite largely in the upper right-hand corner. So those are the images by center. Now, if I select next and go to step 2, this is the benefit center. And again, they're color and numeric coded just like the home page. All of the images or types are listed here, and then here is the sample benefit center. When you're ready, just select the link. And again, you'll notice that in the benefit center, we have 4 different categories of benefit programs and benefits. The first one is health. Then we have the income protection, then we have financial, and then we have work life. So you can have all 4 or up to 4. So you may not have all of these, but again, notice that every single one of these have a default image, 2 additional options, and the capability of adding custom. Now I will point out to you, notice that this time the pixel width is smaller than the pixel height. So it's kind of for best results when the system automatically resizes the image, upload a vertical image. And I'll show you what that looks like on my training site. So here's my benefits center, and here are my custom images. So there's the health, income protection, financial, and the FSA. I relabeled mine. So you'll see all these. And again, if you select one of these categories, it will display that same image in the upper right-hand corner. Last but not least is you have the capability also within the Benefit Center to change the colors, separating what they currently have and then the standard border. And again, they're coded all the same. When you're ready, you can most certainly change the color by using the palette or the hex code. And these display on the portal right here. These horizontal bars, I just happen to use green on both of these. Once you're done with all those updates, you select next, and it takes you to the last and final step where you would approve it or view it. And I would recommend you taking a look. So this is what I mentioned earlier. Take a quick little preview. Make sure that none of those images are stretched out or distorted. The colors are what you're going for. Everything looks like what you created it to look like. If you notice some changes, notice the second icon here is Change Design. So if you select it, it just takes you back through the steps. Click on whatever needs to be updated, and here's a shortcut. I'll share a little trick with you. Notice in this first paragraph there's a link labeled here. If you select here, it will bump you out to step 4. So it just saves you a couple of clicks. And then the point here I want to make is that you can go through these first 2 steps as many times as you need to until you get that perfect look. Once you're ready for your employees to see all your hard work, you must select Approve Design. Once you do that, it immediately approves your design, even gives you a nice little congratulations message, yay, you designed the portal. And immediately after that, when your employees log into the portal, they will see all of your customization. And that's how you design it yourself. Are there any questions about design it yourself? I'll open up chat, take a quick peek. All right, I've got a question. First one is, will the changes I make apply to all portals? Or can I have a portal, different colors, primary, secondary? The answer to that is when you go into design it yourself, you're going into a specific portal. So you're only making changes for that one portal. So the answer to your question is yes. You most certainly can design each one of your portals very, very differently. All right, I don't see any additional questions, so I've got a couple of my own, of course. The first one being, when will employees see your changes? What is that last step that must be done in order for your employees to see all of your hard work? Exactly. You must select the approved design. And my last and final question is, what is the easiest way to size images and logos to meet the Benergy's Control Center's system requirements? That's true. You most certainly can give it to the Benergy experts, which is our support team. Another way is you can just let the Control Center do it yourself. As soon as, the Control Center do the resizing. By selecting the upload, it will automatically resize that image to meet our requirements. But you most certainly can get EBIC support team to do that, or a graphic designer. If you have that capability, you most certainly can do that. And you can use any editing tools and resize it and get it customized before you upload it. You most certainly still have that capability. All right, I see no additional questions, so let's move on to special alerts. Special alerts is a great way to quickly bring the attention to employees something unique and special, whether it's an open enrollment reminder or maybe a blood drive or corporate picnic or company closing, something like that. And we have two different types of special alerts. We have a standard and we have the custom. So let's talk about our standard special alerts first. These are listed here. First one is the welcome alert. This basically just welcomes new employees, new hires, or maybe new employees to the portal, just kind of getting them familiar with how they can navigate within the portal site by viewing a little mini video. They can either select play or watch tutorial right here within the alert so they can see how to do that navigation. That's the welcome. Now these next two are very optional. They're capabilities that are included with Benergy. And the first one is the Synergy newsletter. And we'll talk more about that in a minute, but you most certainly can enable the capability for employees within this organization to subscribe to a monthly newsletter that we call Synergy. And if you enable that capability, you can also create a special alert to remind employees that they can do that. And if you do that, then right here within the alert, the employees can select subscribe, and they can take the steps to subscribe to that newsletter. Also, same thing with the personal health record. There is this personal health record capability where employees can create their own personal health record within the portal. If you enable that functionality, you most certainly can also enable a special alert to remind employees that they can do that. If the employee is interested, all they would have to do is select Begin and start the steps to create that personal health record for both themselves and their family. By far, the most important, most commonly used standard special alert is the enrollment alert. You most certainly can select that one, and it's just a nice friendly reminder to employees how many days left they have to go through open enrollment to enroll or waive the next plan year's benefits. You can use this for both manual or paper enrollment as well as online enrollment, and we'll talk more about that when we get to the enrollment campaign. But again, if you want to turn on this alert, right here within the special alert, employees can select Begin and start those steps to get enrolled. So let's go ahead and add one of these standards. By selecting this first link labeled Add a Special Alert, you most certainly can add a new alert. So let's add one for enrollment. Let's say that we have a benefit plan year that begins April 1st and that our open enrollment will start in March. So let's go ahead and notice when you select the month, you most certainly can do 1 month at a time by selecting your arrows. But if you want all of the months to appear, just select the month, and that way we can identify the month quickly. And let's just do March 1st through the 14th. Give them 2 weeks. Now this allows employee to turn off the alert. What this does, and by default this is selected by the way, but if you enable this capability, what the employee will be able to do, once they read the alert, they'll be able to turn it off so it doesn't flash across their screen every time they log into the portal. So by default that is selected. And then the last thing that you need to do is identify what standard alert. In this case it's the enrollment, and then you of course select save, and it adds that special alert here. Now once one is added, you most certainly can always edit the information. So if you want to remove the end date, you most certainly can do that, and what that of course means is that this special alert will keep displaying over and over again every time they log in, unless they turn it off of course, but it just means it will display indefinitely. You most certainly can delete an alert to keep the information accurate, and then you can also user group assign it. So now I know we talked a lot about user groups during the Benergy Builder Basics class, but this is something else, and another good reason to add multiple user groups is because you can actually assign separate alerts to different groups. So if you have a different open enrollment for your full-time employees, you would just, and executives, you can just identify the user groups that go through the open enrollment for the beginning of second quarter. Select save, and you've made your changes. So that's a standard special alert. Now let's add a custom special alert, and you can see I've got several here for blood drives, corporate events, and that kind of thing. So all I need to do is select the second label, create a custom special alert, and basically do the same thing, but notice the configuration is slightly different. You would most certainly need to add a title to whatever it is. This is limited to 30 characters. It's not noted currently, but that is the limitation. The message is limited to 100 characters, so you would just add whatever text, including maybe dates and some details, whatever they might be. Again, you can future date the start date if you need to. Let's just do that to April 1st, and this time we're going to leave the end date open. And again, even with custom special alerts, you can still grant the employee the capability of turning it off once they've taken action, and then select save. And look what happens. Not only does it add it to our table as a new one, you most certainly can edit and delete it, even user group assign custom special alerts. But in addition to that functionality, notice that the title becomes a link on your custom special alerts. You most certainly can select it, and it kind of gives you a preview. It shows you what it will look like to your employees. There's the graphic, there's the title, and there's the message. You can have unlimited special alerts, so as many as you need, add them. And what this looks like to the employees, I'm going to have to log out, I think they've already been disabled. Yeah. I'll log back in so you can take a look at what that is. We've seen them when I've logged in before, but here we go. So here's the one for the Synergy newsletter. So here's this do not show again because that turn the capability checkbox was selected. So it gives the employee to click this, and that way it won't ever show again. They can take action and actually subscribe to the newsletter, or they can just simply close it. And there's the custom ones. Again, there's the graphic, the title, and the message. And again, they can do not show it if once they've taken action, or they can simply just close it. And there's another custom. Are there any questions surrounding special alerts? Okay, question is, if I delete an alert, does it stay on file? And can I reinstate the alert later? If you actually delete alert, meaning you come over here, I'll just do that for this one, delete and select OK, it disappears. And you can't reinstate it as you say. You can't re-enable it. So if you have an alert that you need to turn on and on, what I would recommend you doing is selecting edit and changing the end date to something in the past, or future dating the start date is probably a better way to do it. And you can just select December, something way in the future. Or if you already know what the date is in the future, you can identify that. And that way you're not deleting it in the control center, but you're removing it from the employee's view. Does that make sense? Let me know if I need to go into that a little bit more clear. All right, I don't see any additional questions, so I've got, of course, a couple of my own. The first one is, how can alerts be configured to display at a future date? So I'm already telling you that it can. But do you remember how? Exactly. You just put it an effective date to something in the future. My last question is, can I allow employees to turn off a special alert so it will no longer appear every time they log in? Yes. Do you remember how? Yep. This right here. This right here allows them to do that. All right. I see no additional questions, so I am going to now leave the organization and come over here to Portal Setup. Now, as a reminder, Portal Setup is just identifying what you want to include in the portal. So we talked about benefits during basics, and now we're going to jump to human resources. So what you're simply doing here is on the left-hand corner, you're just selecting the checkbox of the different items you want to include on the portal. The thing that you can customize here is how it displays to the employee. So remember, display is synonymous of what appears on the portal. So of course I did that, and that is a customization not only on the portal but also in the control center. So instead of seeing human resources in the control center for my training company and on the portal, it will say HR hotspot. So there's HR hotspot here and here. And of course I did the same thing with the news. Not adding content here yet. We do that later. This is what you identifying what is included. All right, health and wellness, the same thing. You're just selecting, yes, I want to enable this tool. The only thing that you can customize here is the display name. None of this right here can be customized. Nothing on the health and wellness page itself. Just the label can be customized. And this comes with Benergy as well. It's included with the Benergy product, and this is a phenomenal tool. I actually use this personally myself. If you select health and wellness, or in my case, health tools, it opens up this tool. And this is where employees can search on a health topic. They can learn different things like how to get fit, how to lose weight. But this little guy is pretty neat too. By default, it's an adult male, but you most certainly can change it to female and even a child. And you can even flip it from the front to the back. And let's say you have a daughter, and she's hit her head, and you're suspected maybe a concussion. Just click on the head, find concussion, and it walks you through what it is, what causes it, what kind of symptoms, what to expect if you go to the doctor, maybe some home remedies. It's a phenomenal tool, and what makes this unique and separated from other sites on the internet today is that this is maintained by experts, so it's unbiased. And it's so unbiased that hospitals and medical centers and doctors actually use this tool, and it's been around for decades, and it's gotten all kinds of awards. So it's a phenomenal tool, and I would highly encourage you to include that on your portal so your employees can take advantage of that. And that's basically what this little paragraph at the bottom says. All right, moving to I'm Here To section. Now this is basically customizing the portal to make it unique for an employee by creating a bunch of shortcuts. So we all know, and this is found on the home page. So I'm in the portal, and I go to home. It's right here at the beginning. And what you're doing for them is you're creating shortcuts of most commonly used functions or links for your employees. So for example, in my training company, I identify that the most common reason why my employees come to this site is to find an in-network provider. So right here on my first link is find a physician. Now they can also find it if I go to benefits and go to the plan and go a long way, but I just quickly created a shortcut. So that's what these are, shortcut links to help your employees find what they came in here to do much quicker. So again, I'm just identifying which one of these links I want to include in my portal by just selecting these checkboxes. Again, you can customize the display name, which of course is what I've done, and you can dictate the order by selecting these, up and down arrows. You can move these around. Now, a couple of tips I want to share here is if you have a link that is selected here, like find a doctor, but it doesn't display on the portal, 99 times out of 100 is because the configuration does not exist. So again, find a doctor. If you have this selected and it doesn't display on the portal, what that probably means is that you didn't provide the URL to the network directory. So you would need to come into benefits and add that. So basically, it essentially will not direct an employee to a dead link. The second tip I want to share here is notice that some of these checkboxes are grayed out, and that just simply means that those links are required. Now, in addition to these standard links, we do have the capability to add custom links, which is what I've done. So notice that some of these here in the middle don't have these custom display boxes, and that's because they're custom links. And to add one, you would just simply select this link labeled Add Your Own Links, the lower left, and go through the steps to add one. You most certainly can even future date these options. And then give it a title, so I'm going to select Test. And then here's your three options again. You can upload a document, you can freeform text or paste, texty, I didn't mean to do that. There is some editing capabilities, or you can add a URL and then select Save, and then you've added one. And you most certainly can bump it up if you want all your custom links to be together. Unlimited. So you can have as many as you want to, and what's nice about that is if you exceed the display window here, look what happens. There's a scroll feature. So all the links that you provided for your employees or shortcuts will be included, and all they would have to do is just scroll up and down. I usually stop here to see if there's any questions because it's a lot of information. Okay, no questions. If you think of one, I'll circle back around to that. Let's just keep moving. All right, my information. Again, there's two pieces of functionality on this screen. The first one is that Benergy, that monthly newsletter I mentioned, and also the personal health record. And we've talked about these briefly because there are special alerts that can be enabled for both of these. They do come included with Benergy, and I would highly encourage you to turn them on. The first one is the monthly newsletter. Now, these articles are being pulled from the health and wellness, so you must enable that tool in order to allow your employees to subscribe to that newsletter. It doesn't work the other way around, but if you want to enable this monthly newsletter, you must have health and wellness enabled. Second piece is the personal health record. This is basically what this says here. It's a monthly newsletter that gets enabled. And something I didn't mention is that this is monthly. So these articles typically pertains to that time of year. So February 2013 probably will be packed full of articles about this epidemic flu season and how to avoid it and things that you can do and reminders to get your flu shot and that kind of thing. And that really is what that says here. Now, the personal health record, what's unique about this is employees can create a personal health record for not only themselves but their entire family. And it can include things like prescriptions, injuries, illnesses, and that kind of thing. And as long as they have access to the internet, they can be anywhere in the country or the world for that matter, and they can log into the portal and log into their personal health record and get that information. So an example I usually share here is if a family goes abroad and one of their children has asthma and they have maintenance meds and they forgot to fill it before they left the country. As long as they have access to the internet, they can log into the portal, log into their personal health record, get that information, and go get that prescription filled. So it's a very valuable tool, and that's basically what this says here. And something I want to point out to you, under my information, personal health record, they can most certainly log in, but one of the things that employees are most concerned is how secure is this. So what I do is I reassure you guys, you can reassure your employees that this is highly secure because it's encrypted 128 bits. So basically it's dust. It's encrypted to the max, the same level as security that a financial institution would use. And so the additional security also takes place is because nobody has access to this information, not their employer, not their broker, and not EBIX. No one can see their password. If they somehow forget their password, then it will prompt them through a list of security questions that is set up when they add their own privacy key. But it's highly secure. It's a phenomenal tool and very easy to use, and that's basically what that says. All right, last piece under portal setup is upgrades. If you have any current upgrades, they will be listed here in the upper left-hand corner. All the rest are listed below here. So, for example, Nurse Line. There's the name, there's some information. If you need additional details, just simply select the link, More Information, and it pulls up the 1 to 2 page sales slick, and they can review this. Now, let's just say that they're interested, and they've got an additional question. Maybe they need pricing. We've made that easy for you as well. So right here within the Control Center, there is a link of how you can contact your own unique strategic account manager. There is a link labeled here. You would simply select the link, and you can copy whoever you need to. But what is required is your name and your email address. And there's even a default subject and message, and you, of course, can customize that. But once you select Submit, it routes this email to your specific account manager, and they'll get back with you on question, pricing, or whatever you need. So that is portal setup, identifying what on the portal you want to include. Are there any questions? First question, can I send the health newsletter to employees and allow them to select to stop receiving the newsletter? Currently, the only way that an employee can subscribe to a newsletter is if they subscribe themselves, unless there's a group email, I guess. But if you subscribe and click on it, the first thing it's going to ask you for is an email address. So typically, organizations leave it up to the employee. All right. A couple of questions that I have is, can display names be customized? So any of these options here, exactly, they most certainly can. Second question I have is, can the health and wellness page be customized? That's this piece right there. Does anybody remember that answer? Go ahead and click on it, see if that gives anybody any hints. Correct. No. The only thing that can be customized is a display name, which is basically the label. None of this body can be customized. Very good. Another question, can the display order for the links in I'm Here To section, can they be customized? So this is this piece. So can the display order be customized? Absolutely. You can just use these up and down arrows. Is there a limit to how many of these links can be added to this section, the I'm Here To section? No, there is not. Very good. Next question is, can employees subscribe to the Benergy newsletter if the health and wellness is excluded or disabled? No, correct. That health and wellness must be enabled before the Benergy newsletter can be enabled. Last and final question is, if I have questions about the upgrade products, how can I get them answered? And there's several answers to this, but I'm kind of wanting the answer to be within the control center. What's the quick and easiest way to reach out to your strategic account manager right here within the portal? Yeah, you most certainly can call your contacts that you know. But the easy way, what I think it considers the easy way, is just right here under Portal Setup Upgrades, there's this link capability that does route your email to your appropriate account manager so they can get back with you. All right. I see no additional questions, so let's finish up with the human resource section. And this is not hard, and this is very similar to the benefit configuration. But what I usually like to say here before I go through this is this is a great way to increase employee usage on the portal. And the reason why I say this is because it's really a win-win. It's a win for the employee because it empowers them with all the information they need and have it at their fingertips by going into the portal and seeing all their policies, all their contacts, links, and everything that they need to know to do as an employee of this organization. And how it's a win for the HR team is because they're not constantly being inundated with phone calls and emails of information that they can easily share on the portal. So up front, there may be a little bit more time consuming where they have to take the extra steps to configure these items, but in the long run it saves them a ton of time and it frees them up to do reporting and recruiting and other HR functions. And they most certainly can do this here by going to company news, and this is the second area, that really the third area that you can add company news items. I already talked about this briefly because you could also do it from the news posting section of Benergy Central. But this is a table, and as you can see, I have all kinds of information here. I even have press releases. And once you've added items, you can always view it, edit, delete it, and user group assign it. So even though you're adding a news item, you can add different news items for different groups of employees, which is another great benefit of adding multiple user groups. And to add a new one, you would just simply select the add link here in this top first sentence. Again, by default, the effective date is today's date, but you most certainly can future date that. Add whatever item. Here's your same three choices. Upload a document, free form text, add a URL, select save, and it adds your item. You can always, again, view it, edit, delete it, and user group assign it. And where this displays for the employee is on the home page, the bottom, or under Human Resources. Takes you to the same spot. So these are just some examples: company closing, corporate events, press news releases, and that kind of thing. And I realize it's 11 o'clock Eastern. If you can just stick with me, I promise I'll get finished in the next 5 minutes. I apologize for going over. It's my first time delivering this training, so I'm kind of just still working through the time. Going to the next is policies. And again, I'm not going to go in the details of this. This works just like adding benefit information. So here's the capability of dictating the order regardless of whether it's pulled from the library or adding own. You most certainly can reset that order by selecting that link here in the last paragraph. It resets it and takes you back out here. You can pull items from the library that the broker maintains if you're not by selecting the checkbox. But if you're not sure what it is, select the link. The title is always a link. You can look at it, review it, making sure that you want to add this. If you do, but you need to limit them, don't forget you can user group assign them as well by selecting that little icon and overriding it from all to whatever you need it to be. And then you can add your own. Now, adding works the same way that I just showed you, but here are some examples of policies that can be added. Dress code, PTO, employee handbook, sexual harassment, that kind of thing. So again, not hard, but can be time-consuming initially. Communications, again, you dictate the order. You can identify some that you want to use from the library, user group assign them. Here's the areas that you can add your own. Some examples I can share here. Holiday schedules for the year. Payroll calendars, everybody loves to know when they get paid. You can even highlight birthdays and service anniversaries by month or by quarter just to kind of improve employee morale. Looks like I need to go back and update those to February. Again, brokers can add these items to the library, but everybody can view them, edit, delete it, and user group assign it. You can always dictate the order as well. I think I mentioned that earlier. You can do that here as well. Moving on to resources, again, the functionality remains the same, dictating the order, pulling from the library, user group assign it. Some of the customized ideas that I'd like to share here are company information, employee directory, internal training schedules, always a good one, or you can even put the Benergy training schedule. The benefits booklet, if you create those booklets that we talked about in the basics training, you created one for each user group, you most certainly can add those here. Again, functionality all remains the same. Contacts, functionality all the same. Here's our library. If there's a broker contact, they'll be listed here. Some examples here are trainers, support team, maybe even an IT help desk, payroll desk. They most certainly can be added here. Forms, this would be any form that an employee would ever have to fill out, whether it's related to benefits or not. It could be tax forms, which would be included here in our library. You could have state forms that are either here at the broker library or here. And any other form, like to perform a background check, direct deposit, FSA, any flexible or any spending account reimbursement forms. New hire form, PTO request, security access, all again, these are just examples I like to share just to give you ideas. All the functionality remains the same. Links, these are any links. Now, the one that we talked about during our basic class, of course, is the per packer requirement. So we've already kind of talked about this page. So these are all the different options here listed under Human Resources. And what this looks like for the employees, they can just click on the HR link, and it shows all the different sections. So here's the policies and all the policies that were added, communications and all the communications, resources, contacts, forms, and links. Everything is right here. So they can see all the different items that they have available. And that's it. Are there any questions about Human Resources, how you add them, how you maintain them, any of that? Just open up chat. All right, I've got a couple of my own, and then we'll finish up. The first one is, can HR items be assigned to user groups? Yes, they most certainly can. Exactly. Can HR items be selected from a creator library, that library maintained by the broker? Yeah, exactly. All right. That's pretty much it. It's pretty straightforward. Now, something I did promise I would just briefly mention in training, so I'm going to do that, is under modules and tools, there is the enrollment campaign. Now, this is a separate training, but as you can see, you most certainly can add a brand new one, edit, delete, or copy. And you most certainly can copy it. This might save you a lot of time. So you can just, if you need to edit, just select, and you can dictate the order if you have more than one. If you need to edit, you can just make changes on this page or any of these other pages. Or you can delete it to keep it accurate, or you can copy it. And if you copy it, it'll just ask you, are you sure? If you are, then select OK, and it just makes a complete copy. And then there's certain things that they tell you that you must update, and of course it's the enrollment period, because from one plan year to the next, your enrollment dates need to be updated. Now, a couple of things that I want to share here, that when you copy a campaign, not only will it copy everything in it, but it will not change the dates, and it will not copy the forms. So if you have a paper enrollment, you will have to manually add those, because it's assuming that those will be changed. So I just wanted to share that as well. And that's really the only question. When copying a portal, what must be edited? The main thing it needs to be edited is the dates, but if you have a paper or manual open enrollment, then you'll most certainly need to update those forms. And that's it. Those are just some ideas that we wanted to share with you to help increase the employee personalization. So if I go quickly back to my PowerPoint and go over what we should have accomplished. Communicate news posting. So we talked about how brokers can broadcast news to all employees for all companies, as well as how you can do the same thing for a specific organization. So it looks like we accomplished that. We edited the portal and talked about all the different ways that you can increase employee usage by adding some extras. And we covered the employee personalization by adding employees into the control center, customizing and changing the design, as well as those special alerts. So it looks like we accomplished that. Portal setup, we went through all the different things that you can edit to include on your portal, like human resource, health and wellness, I'm here too, my information, and upgrades. Human resource items, all the different things that you can add, such as news, policies, communications, resource, contacts, and forms. And then, of course, we briefly talked about the enrollment campaign. If you're about to start open enrollment, be sure you attend one of those other trainings. And so it looks like we accomplished everything that we set out to accomplish. I will stay on for a couple minutes to see if there's any additional questions. But for everyone else, thank you so much for your time. And again, I apologize I went a little bit over. I will continue to tweak this and make sure we stay right on that 60-minute mark. But again, thank you so much for your time today, and have a great day. Bye-bye.